This is Health Unfiltered, the podcast where we cut through the bullshit and get honest about fitness, nutrition, and mental wellness.
Hey guys, I'm so excited. We have our co-host, our first appearance, Alfredo Zapata is joining us. And we also have our guest, Morgan Ikovich. And since this is Alfredo's first time joining us, I'd like for him to tell us a little bit about himself to get us started today. Alfredo, you want to do the honors?
Sure, yeah, that'd be great. And I'm glad to be here connecting with you, Josh. I think for some reason, the universe God put us together, and when things you let it flow, things start happening, and sometimes it feels like it's something that like a magic thing just happening. And I'm glad to be here, and especially being in a different place. Everyone here, I think the magic of internet help us to do that connection. And anyway, so I'm from Mexico City. I grew up here and born and raised in the '60s from a single mom. I'm the only child, so it was kind of a little bit conflictive in a way, just trying to fit in, socially, even though I got a lot of love, my grandparents, my uncles, my mom, but it was some kind of void. So early age, I started walking around the business district where I used to live, and I started walking and then jogging, like about 5 years old, and I started feeling a surge in my body that connect with my mind, which is part of my program now, connecting mind and body. And I started feeling good. I started feeling like I was in charge, kind of like a superhero. And then from there, my life started kind of revolving around doing some activities like physical activities without formal teaching or going to summer camp or anything. There was nothing like that. So I started watching football, soccer, then martial arts, then bodybuilding. And that started kind of giving me my shield to have my Clark Kent and Superman, kind of thing, but without having a actual knowledge. Even though I was always very intrigued about things, like my mom, my aunt cooking. So I started learning how to do, scrambled eggs, refried beans, and things like that. So I was always very wanting to share things and to learn new things. So the sports was part of me, and then I end up studying nutrition because it was kind of connected. There was a couple issues before that. Then I start, learning and a little more like a hospital patients. It wasn't just exercising and eating healthy. It was more like a compassion, empathy, caring for others who were in need. So it started giving me more sense of humanity, like being more human. Then a friend of mine and I would start commenting about bodybuilding and the Mecca bodybuilding in Los Angeles. So this guy moved, he crossed the border. So I connect with him and I say, I want to go visit you. I got my visa and everything. I was studying nutrition, the career. And then on the border, they canceled my passport. I got very mad because I returned angry. I finished my schooling. I graduated and I crossed the border. It was like a long story, kind of like an action movie. And then my life started over there, carrying a bag of alcohol because I was doing two lives in the mornings, healthy, nutritionist, fitness, and afternoon at night. It was the other part of my life, which was filling a void. So long story short, I ended up living in my car for like 3 months in front of Gaussian Venice, the Mecca bodybuilding. And something happened. I lost my car. I found it. And at that day, I made a decision to quit drinking totally until currently now, which is almost 28 years. And then things start unfolding. I start, doing my personal training. I started doing public speaking. I got involved into the television, Spanish television. I got married. My kid, younger, got diagnosed with autism at age 3. Then, we continue our lives. Biracial marriage, Chinese, my wife, me, Mexican. 2012 happens few things prior to that, and I got deported. So I'm in Mexico City doing online coaching, working with various people. And my program is called Connected Mind and Body, which was part of what I started when I was younger. And now I see the importance of having a clear mind in order to have a healthy body. And anyway, so that's me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us. So, Morgan, we're gonna talk about micro habits today and all kinds of other fitness and nutrition stuff. But do you want to get started and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Morgan Ekovich. I'm from Lansing, Michigan. I'm actually from a small town just south of Lansing, but if anyone knows Lansing, it's the biggest it's our capital. So I actually went to school. I graduated in 2019 from Central Michigan University with a bachelor's of science for exercise science so I could be a personal trainer. I wanted to go into corporate wellness. And then I have a minor in nutrition and public health. So I knew when I went to school, I wanted to do something health and wellness related. And after I graduated, I ended up working at a gym as a personal trainer, and I loved it because I loved working with my 86-year-old client to my 22-year-old client to the client who just had back surgery. Every day was a little bit different. I was never bored. I was moving a ton, and I loved helping people. COVID happened and I was laid off because all the gyms shut down. And I then decided to take my business online, which I was able to because I wasn't employed by where I was working. So for the time being, I was able to turn my clients online, see if this is something I wanted to do. So I dabbled in the business ownership. Come fall, we reopened and I did part-time in person at the gym, part-time my own business, kind of finding a balance. And in October 2021 on October 25th, so technically tomorrow, I left my in-person job and I jumped full into being an online solopreneur. So I love it. The one thing that I knew was missing from the in-person experience with my clients was like you were saying, that mind body connection is I felt like I was seeing my clients every week and physically they were doing great. We were improving our strength, our endurance was getting better. But we talk about life and the same nutrition roadblocks would come up, the same time scheduling roadblocks would come up every single week. We just continue to have those mindset conversations. So when I moved to my business online, I was able to have full control. I moved into a whole health approach where we start wherever the client is wanting to, whether that's nutrition, exercise, mindset. People don't usually come to me and tell me, help me with my mindset. It usually gets sprinkled in along the way.
Right.
But we start with wherever they want to go, and then we slowly use micro habits to build a sustainable lifestyle that lasts long term rather than something that ends in 30 days and they're searching for that next thing to grasp onto, or they ends in 75 days. So it's kind of how I've transitioned into where I am now, which has been super fun.
How exciting. I love that. That's really interesting. I believe that mental wellness is the most important aspect of overall health. And if you're not in a good place, you're not going to care about your health. You're not going to worry about what you're eating or how much exercise you're getting. And I love that both of you incorporate that into your practices. And I'm curious, what sparked your interest initially to get into to helping people with their health, when you went to school to learn about it?
Yes. So I played soccer year round. I grew up riding horses. I played sports. So I was an athlete. But
Hmm.
my senior year of high school, I was kind of tired of the politics that came with team sports. And I wanted to find something to do on my own. So my senior year, I got back into horse riding, which is a solo sport. Yes, you have a team when you are part of like your high school, but you are essentially you and the
Hmm.
horse. I got also a gym membership to our Snap Fitness, and I was going and I was just kind of dabbling around with the equipment, and I was using different people's online programs, just kind of playing around with like, okay, this is fun. Then I signed up for a half marathon and a 25K. So I was starting to just learn what exercising on my own for the fact of enjoyment was rather than practice that was for an end result. So it was kind of just knowing that I wasn't going to go on and continue doing sports, that once I got to college, I wasn't going to be a pro athlete. So how could I incorporate sports in the social aspect and the parts that were so great that it made you feel? How could I incorporate that? So that's kind of where I wanted to go. I actually wanted to go into dietetics when I went to school, and then I realized there was so much chemistry that I did not want to have to conquer all of the chemistry classes. So instead, I went for a minor in it rather than a major. And I'm a hands on learner. So going into a degree that helps me help people with their bodies was just the perfect program. And Central has a fantastic, like, you actually have to do a 16-week internship. You have to do a practical where you have to have clients while you are still in school. They had a phenomenal program that made it fun and actually feel like I learned something rather than just that degree that a lot of people, I think we tend to get and we just move on and fingers crossed we used it. Like I use mine every day and it's awesome.
That's incredible. Yeah, so many people go to school and then they might not even use their degree ever. And the fact that they made it fun and interesting to learn is really, a huge thing. Um, it's it makes such a big difference when you're really engaged in what you're learning.
Mm.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I never had any formal training, but I've done a lot of research and I've done a lot of experimentation on my own, with my diet, my exercise, and mental health. And yeah, it's really interesting. This past January, I tried doing the carnivore diet for World Carnivore Month, and it was really interesting. The changes that I noticed when I stopped eating, um, you know, carbohydrates essentially, and I felt so much better, and I wasn't hungry in between meals. And after that month was over, I noticed that my cravings for sweets and breads and pastas and potatoes and all that stuff really had diminished in like a lot. And I started incorporating more fruit back into my diet, and that's mostly what I eat now is primarily meat and fruit, but I also keep it a little flexible. I do a 90-10 eating where 10% I just kind of eat whatever I want. It's about 3 meals a week. And
Mm.
I've found a lot of success with that. Um, what kind of nutrition advice do you advise to your clients?
Yeah. So I always tell them we want to look at something that's sustainable long term. So if the carnivore diet for you is sustainable long term, then I'll go for it. Like that is the biggest thing. So I will never knock somebody for doing a diet. I always just have them really look at, is this something you can continue for the next 25 plus years, the next 50 years? Because that's the long term we really want to look at. So when I help people originally, I have everybody keep a 1 week food log. The goal of this is to not change your eating habits because somebody's looking at it. And that is the hardest part
Right.
for people. When they know somebody's going to be looking, they're like, oh, I'll eat some more vegetables. I'm like, no, if you don't eat vegetables, don't put them on there. Don't eat them.
Hmm.
Just keep your life normal. And
Yeah.
then we look at essentially what food group or what meal is the most challenging for them. And we try to really create a balanced lifestyle of, are you getting enough protein at each meal to make you feel full and satisfied? Are you getting your healthy fats? Are you making sure you get carbohydrates in a way that your body responds well? For instance, potatoes over pasta or
Hmm.
vegetables over grains. We all respond differently. Our gut health is all different. So it's finding, oh, maybe raw vegetables aren't good, but roasted vegetables work better for you. So it's a lot of trial and error, but I help people, the majority of them, we look at not so much a diet per se, but are we getting everything we need? And are we still able to enjoy that alcohol, enjoy that candy, enjoy that piece of cake, whatever their guilty pleasure may be, pizza, beer, whatever it is, like allow them to find the flex in that. That's kind of like you said, that 10% of
Hmm.
finding that way to make it all fit. Because if we can't enjoy the food, it's such a social aspect of our life and our culture
It
that we
is.
feel like we're being deprived. And then we end up not saying sustainable long term.
I love that. It's definitely something that I believe strongly in is being flexible and allowing yourself those guilty pleasures in moderation. That's really important because if you're trying to be super strict, you're gonna get off the wagon. And then some people, they're like, well, I ate, cake last night and might as well have, pancakes and whatever for breakfast today. And they just get off the train. And it's really sad. What people, I think should be doing is, allow themselves to have those guilty pleasures once in a while, and then primarily, stick with the healthy foods that they know are healthy. And like you said, everyone's different, and find what works for them and what's going to be sustainable. It can't be, I'm going to go on a diet for 6 months so I could lose 20 pounds so I could look good in my bathing suit. It's like, no, you want to look good and feel good for the rest of your life. You need to find something that works for you.
Hmm.
So,
Uh,
Alfredo, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think both of those approaches are good. I think since the Western culture or the society's been bombarded for many, many years, I will say at least 3 decades or 4 decades, it's been how you speak to others and how people speak to themselves. Because I think sometimes we don't measure or we don't pay attention of how we speak or how we take care of ourselves. So we start always with the pressure of what they're gonna say, what they're gonna think, and then you start reprogramming your mind, saying, "I'm gonna label things because that's what the doctor told me, or that's what society says." So in my case, I don't label the eating plan as a diet because to me, diet is like a cage. And then if you don't think about living healthy and looking how to improve, you start looking at some of those items that give you nutrition at something that you can only do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and only on Sunday or Monday you can do whatever you want. And I think sometimes the discipline of taking care of yourself gets wasted because there's no actual uh, discipline with yourself. You're failing to yourself to take care and loving yourself, regardless of the best program that you have. And I think when I speak to people, I want to know what is their why. If they really want to love themselves so they can actually achieve excellence in how they take care of them, like a Ferrari. I had a talk for these sales ladies here in Mexico, and it talks about how you need to take care of your body as you will take care of this Ferrari, which it takes care with a high maintenance. You got to take it to the specialty shop. You got to put a high octane gas. You have to wash it with the right tools and everything. So if you're not willing to do that based on your budget or your situation, you cannot diminish the gift that you have to be alive. And then you end up just doing cookie cutting or you're doing it for a certain time. And then you end up always kind of failing and feeling guilty for yourself, but also for the surroundings. And I think I give them options. I don't give them a particular regimen. I
Mm-hmm.
calculate what they will need based on what their needs are. But I will say, well, why don't you try this and this and tell me how you feel? I make sure they check where is the pH in their gut because sometimes people can be eating healthy, but they have a high acidity and they're not going to be with a good nutrition. Maybe they have a sore neck, and that sore neck causes to change your mood, and then your chemistry in the abdominal, I mean, in the gut, they start changing. And then you're going to eat whatever, regardless of you having the best plan to eat, because you say, forget it. I have a sore neck. I'm just going to eat donuts. I'm going to eat whatever to satisfy that pain. And once you
Yeah,
take it, then you feel guilty. And then you say, I'm going to the gym to sweat like a horse so I can feel the pain, saying, I'm punished myself because what I did. And then the circle continues on until you say, stop, that's enough.
it's a
Whether I
vicious
have,
circle.
right, whether I have eyesight or I have no legs is responsibility of each individual to actually do that. So I don't pressure them, but I want to know if they're ready to make that commitment with them. Because it could be a bodybuilder, could be an executive, could be a housewife, could be a senior. And I think in how I accompany the person, it will give them more confidence. And instead of being someone who like a police or saying, okay, well, on Sunday you can guilt out whatever you want, but you come back on Monday and you do the right thing. So
Mm,
that's kind of what I've been working on myself first, so I can show it to the world.
yeah. Yeah. It's something I like to say often. You can't outrun a bad diet, and it's really important the quality of foods that you're putting in your body, making sure you're eating nutrient dense foods, avoiding processed foods as much as possible. They're so prevalent these days. And something that I really like in Mexico, I've seen that they label certain foods with excessive calories, excessive sodium, like right on the front. And I think that's pretty cool because a lot of the marketing here in the United States, it's so horrible. It's just marketing on these foods, low fat, low sugar, low this, low that, and it's all bullshit. You turn the package around and you actually look at the nutrient facts and you can see what's in there, but even that can be tricky. They play games with the serving size to be able to exclude things. And what's most important, I believe, is the list of ingredients. And if you can read all the ingredients, if you can pronounce them, if it's a shorter list of ingredients, those are all good signs that these are healthier options. But I believe the best option is whole foods. And yeah, there's so much temptation out there. Even when you eat out at restaurants, they're using, ultra processed seed oils, and the portions aren't right. I really like, Morgan, what you said about including the healthy fats. I think so many people are afraid of fat, and it's such a shame. You ask someone, "Hey, do you want to try this?" And they're like, "Oh, how much fat does it have in it?" And it's like that's not the most important question to ask. Morgan, what do you think about fats and healthy fats?
I think healthy fats are really important. So your nuts, your nut butters, your avocados, your butters, your olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, things like that. I think what can happen though is people will cook with oils and then they will also add additional healthy fat to the meal. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I track my food every once in a while. It's not a daily thing because tracking to me is something that is not long term successful. At least it isn't for
Yeah.
me. Like, I'm not going to track till I keel over. Like, it's not happening. But I know it's a really good tool when I feel like I'm coming off a vacation or I'm feeling like my body's just not feeling how it's normally is. Like, let's dial in. Oh, I've switched up my breakfast. I'm noticing my breakfast is this. And I noticed that I actually have a higher fat diet. I love cheeses. I do a lot of home cooking, and there's oils that are in there, and we tend to forget about that when we cook. So
Hmm.
I think as long as your fats are not coming from your fast food or frozen meals, things like that, like if they are healthy fats, go ahead and have them because they're going to make you feel more satisfied. They're going to help make a meal or a snack feel more satiating. It's going to give you benefits. And it's just something we shouldn't be afraid of. It's also remembering that a healthy fat is like the serving of your thumb and it's not the entire avocado. So I could totally cut up an avocado, put some pepper on it, and eat the whole thing. But if you do that at multiple meals, that's just really high caloric intake. And if you're not pairing it really well, you're gonna end up feeling hungry. You're gonna end up overeating. So give yourself a smaller portion, indulge in it, enjoy it, slow down, and actually enjoy your food. Whether it's a carb, a fat, a protein, that's something we tend not to do. We don't slow down and enjoy our food. We just rush through it because it's a meal and we feel like we need to eat. So
Hmm.
I think fats are important, and I'm a cheese lover, so I eat a lot of healthy fats that come from dairy.
Nice. Yeah, I love cheese. I've been exploring more raw cheeses, like cheese made with unpasteurized milk, like Gruyere cheese or Parmesan cheese, those aged cheeses, and they're really great. They really add a lot of flavor and complex to a meal. Personally, I find that my body responds well to eating really low carbs, and
Mhm.
so fat and carbohydrates are both sources of energy, and and like you were saying, you need to be um, aware of how much you're eating. You don't want to overeat, especially if you're eating carbohydrates and fats together. So in my case, I tend to eat more fat and protein together, and I get my energy primarily from fat. Um, so that's been working great for me. But like we said, everyone's different, and I know you work a lot with women. Is that right? How
Yeah.
how do those nutritional requirements differ from men and women, especially in their menstrual cycle?
Yeah. So it's, I feel like that's something that's all over social media right now is train during your cycle, eat like your cycle. And I think that's great, but I think that's honestly for the advanced person because so
Yeah.
often we aren't even doing the bare basics. And until
Hmm.
we master the basics, there's no sense in trying to train for this cycle or eat a specific way. Yes, there's probably better things we should eat during certain phases, like, hey, have
Hmm.
some sweet potatoes this week because it's got some potassium. It's more of those nutrients that we're looking for, not necessarily the food itself. Um, but when I work with women, we really look at what makes you feel the most satisfied because what tends to happen is there's multiple categories. Category number one is I work with the fasting woman who stops eating at 8, doesn't eat till noon or 1 the next day, and then essentially binges from 1 to 8 because they're in this starvation mode. And in reality, if they would have just woken up and had 25 grams of protein at breakfast in a good, whether it's a shake or it's an actual physical breakfast, they would end up eating less in the long run. So I work with clients like that. That's one of our biggest things. It's good to have breakfast in the morning. Breakfast is really important. The other is I don't have time and I'm so indulged in my work or my kids that I don't even think to eat. And that right there, we've all probably had our parents snip at us or we've snipped at our kids. And it's really not because we're frustrated. It's because we're having trouble regulating our emotions, our mental state because of our eating. And we don't
Hmm.
realize how much our eating and the energy that food brings actually has for regulating our bodies and how we respond to people. So those are the two areas. So I really help people just decide, are you somebody who needs those 3 bigger meals because that is how your lifestyle and your body feels like it needs, or are you a eat every 2 hours? I'm a eat every 3 to 4 hour person. Doesn't have to be a big meal, but I need to have something because I feel my energy crash and I get hangry, and nobody wants
Hmm.
to be around me when I'm hangry. Like before this I was like, I need to eat because this will not be good. So helping them notice these changes in their body, and then once they've mastered that, then we can look at your cycle and we can look at what does your body need. Really just tuning into, you woke up and your body feels really tight because it's the second day of your period. Let's not go lift heavy. Go for a walk, stretch, be flexible and listen to your body, and just being really in tune because a lot of us, there's so much going on. We're not even in tune with what's going on with ourselves, let alone we're so focused on everything else that when it comes to us, we don't know.
Yeah, that can be very challenging with social media, work, school, whatever you got going on in your life. Trying to tune into yourself can be hard. Um, are there are there any micro habits that you recommend for people to start tuning in and start changing the way they're eating?
Yeah. So essentially, a micro habit is taking a big goal and breaking it up into a small actionable task and then breaking that up even smaller. So the
Hmm.
easiest example I give is, let's say your goal is to drink 90 ounces of water. Well, you track your water and you're only drinking 30. You're not going to go ahead and start drinking the extra 60 because you're going to be in the bathroom for the every hour on the hour. And we know we don't have time for that already. So we take 30 and we go to 35 ounces. Once we feel like we're comfortable there, then we go to 40. So that's the best analogy I can give for a micro habit when it comes to like the visual representation. So when it comes to nutrition, we really start with a food group or a meal that somebody struggles with. I always give them a choice. I'm like, so vegetables is something we're struggling with in breakfast. Which one would you like to start working on first? And we work on it for probably 2 to 3 weeks until they feel like they have a plan, they feel successful. We use an app called My Coach, which for any of you guys that are coaches, it's phenomenal. I'm happy to share a link to it. But it's awesome because on a coach's status, I create a profile for my clients. They download the app on their phone and I give them their daily tasks. I give them their workouts and they check off what they did and what they did not do. So we can start to visually see what is happening and what is not. Because our brain tends to trick us into thinking, oh, I drank that much, or oh, I'm eating enough vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
We're not until we track and we can visually see. That's when the reality comes in. But micro habits for exercise. If somebody's goal is to work out 7 days a week for 30 minutes and that's not happening, let's start every day for 5 minutes. 5 minutes for yourself every single day. And during those workouts, tune in. How does your body feel when you go for a walk? Do you feel a weird kink in your neck that you maybe didn't feel? Oh, do you notice that when you wake up, you're starting to feel like, oh, my shoulders are tight? Did I sleep wrong? What's my posture? Just little breaks throughout your day to sit up straighter. Notice, oh, yeah, I feel that there. Or, I'm actually hungry. Or, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling parched. I haven't drank water in a few hours. So the more self-acknowledgement and the slowing down you can do, the easier it is. And I know it's hard because we're like, next project, then I'll do it. Next project, then I'll do it. Just stop first. After that first project, just take 2 minutes. It doesn't even have to be a long time.
Definitely. I think that's really important, taking a moment to step back and tune in to yourself and how you're feeling and what you need. That can make a big difference in your success.
Mhm.
Alfredo, did you have any comments?
Yeah, well, I think what Morgan mentioned about the tracking is good. I think based on each person's agenda, but I focusing more on where they at in life because I think sometimes putting too many things in their plate can be difficult, even though they're pretty simple. You know, like the 5 minute walk or like waking up a little bit early or something. And I tend to have more of that understanding and saying, tell me what is hurting you. Because I think when you have some type of ache, and I talk about physical because the physical change your mood and how you think and how you act. Because when you start just reminiscing and thinking about good things or things that happens in your past, those are past memories. But in the body, it's kind of like your alarm. When your neck hurts, you change your mindset, your perception, and you say, "I'm gonna take this pill because it's gonna alleviate my pain,"
Mm,
and it change your mood. And then you're not actually focusing on your work or house or whatever, and then you end up procrastinating or putting aside unconsciously of what happens, and then you start feeling guilty because you haven't been accountable since you were a child. Then the parents, do you did your chores, do you eat your vegetables? So you start kind of bringing those memories to your mind when that happened. So you end up kind of rejecting that. And I think it's very important once I show the person, because I work with posture. That's the first program part that my program is your posture. If your posture gives you some type of pain, I want to help you so you can release the pain. Maybe you have an injury, you have rotary cuff surgery, knees, ligaments, or whatever, but to kind of pinpoint it on an image of the person. So the person will see their image and saying, oh, my shoulder is crooked, my neck is twisted. How can I fix it? So I tell them, based on your anatomy, try these 3 positions so you can adjust and feel better. That
Mm-hmm.
itself is going to give you some sense of relief. And then you're going to say, oh, I feel better. Then I say, take a picture again with the new posture. So the person is going to say, oh, I look better, like a before and after. And we didn't do surgery, you didn't do 3 months diet or anything. It's just changing your posture. The posture will change your perception of how you feel and how you think. And then the
Definitely.
eating part, it will give you a lot more freedom to say, I'm comfortable and I'm enjoying eating what I need to eat. And the tracking will help you because you feel better. You don't have too much neck pain. And then when you do the exercise to enhance your muscle tone, your ability to move and do things, you're going to be more successful instead of doing the other way, which is what the media and the whole society says: eat vegetables and work out like a madman. That's it.
Yeah.
But you don't think about what happens in the brain when the body is not at peace. So that's how I approach it. And I think the tracking that Morgan says is something that I use also. And yeah, that's what I do.
Nice. Yeah, I think the overall, holistic view, bringing everything together and focusing on nutrition, fitness, and your mental wellness is really the only way to find lasting success. And to touch on the tracking of food, it's definitely, I think, important to track and get familiar with the amount of macronutrients in the foods that you're eating so you can make sure that you're getting enough. And one thing that I found to be helpful is doing a photo food log, where you're simply just taking a picture of everything you eat. And that way it's on your phone, it's got the time and the date, and you can go back and see, I wasn't feeling that good this afternoon. What did I have for lunch? And you can kind of try to evaluate and figure out what's making you feel that way. Um, and I wanted to touch on the weight. A lot of people, they want to lose weight and they want to see that number change on the scale. But I find that sometimes they can screw themselves over by weighing themselves, you know, every day or once a week or just too often, and they're too focused on that. What do you guys think about weighing yourself versus body measurements and taking pictures to see the visual changes?
Yeah, well, I will say that based on over 30 years of working with people at the gym or executives or housewives and seniors, that once you start looking better and feel better, is the best guide. Instead of being the obsessed with the enemy, which is the scale, the enemy, which is measurements, because you can have a couple of weeks or maybe even 2 days of dehydration because you had diarrhea or because you had some situation going on. That is going to throw you here in your mind because you say, oh, I used to have 30-inch in my waist and now I have 33. Or I used to weigh that much pounds. And I tell people, for me, the weight is irrelevant. If your percentage, if your muscle tone, if your energy is not what it should be or what it used to be, something is happening. Then you can track it besides being obsessed, because I think so many things now that we have information going on in our lives, what we have going on in our work or whatever. And if we start actually looking at that, we're gonna be confused forever. And I kind of prove that when I work with professional boxers here in Mexico, because that's one of the sports, contact sports besides others. The the contender is obsessed, and some of the coaches have installed on them the guilt and saying your worst enemy, your worst adversary is the scale. So these guys are running crazy, with the plastic thing on their waist to lose water because the weight is not right. And when they go to the fight, they don't have the same stamina, the same performance is wasted. Unless they make a knockout, they're just gonna be holding to the next opponent, hanging to get decision. And that is just an example of what happens with the normal people.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredibly unhealthy what fighters and boxers have to do to cut weight to make their weight class. And it's, they're starving themselves up to the way out, and then after they have a few hours to try to eat and regain, their hydration, and it's really not healthy.
And it's
What do
because
you
they don't have a discipline and they don't train them to be responsible. Because if you don't have at least 90 or 120 days to prepare, how can you expect? Because some of them, they came to us because we have this sports rehab clinic, and they were like 8 weeks before the fight, and they weren't in the top shape, and they were international champions. So I told them, you know what? We can only help you, but you're not on your best. So don't expect to win. And some people are the same way. I'm gonna get married and I need to lose that much weight because I gotta get in the dress and the bikini and stuff. And they're not there. So I make sure they know. So they're not like, well, you didn't help me. It's your fault. No, it's the one on the mirror, the one that you see
mm,
every day.
yeah. So what do you think about that, Morgan, about the scale and weighing yourself and body fat percentage and all that fun stuff?
So I think from a female's perspective, I think it is something that we were obsessed with and that it's starting to lean away from that. I have a client that every day she weighs herself. She's done it for the past 10 years. Like,
Oh
but
man.
she knows she's got buffers. She goes, I've got my 5 pound flexibility. And if I know I start
Hmm.
to creep up higher than that, is when something, so she does it and she has a really good relationship with it. I have other clients, and myself included, that the scale is not, no, the scale is like when my fitness pal turns red when I've ate too much. You're not going to dictate
Hmm.
how much I've ate today. So personally, for my clients who want to track numbers, every orientation form, anytime somebody comes on, I have them do a pre-working together orientation form. And I ask them, physically, how do you feel? Mentally, how do you feel? Emotionally, how do you feel? How is your sleep? So I ask all these things that are really going to change before that weight does. And those are required things that they answer on this form. At the end, they've got measurements and weight that are optional. And most people don't put a weight or a measurement in there because they really don't care. Or if they do, they're putting it in there just so we have a baseline to know where we're starting. For instance, I've had
Hmm.
clients who have had some bariatric surgery, so they want to know what their post-surgery weight is, but pre-lifestyle change weight is.
Yeah.
And sometimes those numbers don't change significantly, but we drop 4 pant sizes because we just start to distribute weight differently. So I always have people do put that type of information in first. How do you physically feel, mentally, emotionally? How are you managing your stress? What are the things that are happening? What's your sleep look like? The other thing I do for anybody who wants to track their weight, I require that they do a daily win. So every day at the end of their day, they have to do, I always suggest 3, but minimum of 1 of what it was a win for today. You drank your water, you moved, you ate the way you had planned. You stayed on track with your meal plan. You managed your stress when you felt you were getting agitated. Like literally little things that we do naturally throughout our day that we don't realize we do because they're so small, but they make such a big difference in how we used to. So I have them do it in a journal. A lot of them send it to me, so it's like in our text thread, which is cool to see some of these wins as they compound on one another. So I always have my clients who are hyper focused on numbers do non-scale victories on a daily basis to start reframing our mindset, because it's really easy to get stuck in that one way of thinking. And I don't know if you guys have read the book The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan.
No, I
If you have
haven't.
not, I highly recommend it. I have it right here. Um, it is a fantastic book. Amazon. It is all about mindset and helping you reframe from a gap mindset to a gain mindset of instead of I have 40 more pounds to go, wow, I've already lost 10. So having us look behind at our progress rather than always forward at how far we still have to go. Because in reality, there's no finish line in health unless it's death. So we can't
Right.
keep going for these finish lines. We just have another goal, but it's not a full finish line until we're done and we're off this earth. So it's important that we are celebrating all these little accomplishments along the way.
I love that. I love that idea of focusing on your wins. And I'm sure that helps significantly with people's mindsets and
Mhm.
feeling inspired and motivated to keep moving forward in their health journeys.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's I'd like to talk a little bit more about mental wellness and any other strategies that maybe you recommend for people to try to help them with that.
Yeah. Mindset and mental wellness is something that I find with my clients. I trickle it into the fitness aspect of, hey, I don't have time for this. So we reframe. We do a lot of reframing, re-looking at our calendar, taking control of our life. So I really think our mindset comes from feeling like we don't have control. When we feel like we don't have
Mhm.
control over a situation where we feel like we're spiraling. So always bringing it back to what can I control in the situation? For instance, you got in a car wreck. Okay, a lot of times people can get fed up, pissed off, all those things. Okay, in this moment, what can I control? I can control calling the cops, getting the insurance information. And yes, there's frustrations, but always bringing it back to your control because you are the one that matters. Um, so wins, I have a few books that I have clients that I recommend clients read. I actually just started this new challenge with myself where I've kind of spun it off 75 hard. I'm not a huge fan of 75 hard, so I'm taking a little bit of 75 hard with my concepts. And one of it is reading or listening to 10 minutes of a personal development book. And that's something that I incorporate into my clients' routines or the free challenges that I start to offer to get them really realizing that there's more out there and personal development's okay. I think there used to be a stigmatism around it, mental health, mental fitness, personal development of, oh, that's the self-help science for dummies type of books. Like, no, we
Hmm.
all need to continue to learn and grow to create new pathways. So I'm a huge promoter of all of that. I've started reading a book called Mental Fitness that is actually really awesome. And it kind of goes with what you were saying, Alfredo. They said they're from so far in the book, I'm not very far, but they're talking about the three, um, oh, I'm gonna call it the wrong thing. There's like three brains in your body, your brain, your gut, and your heart, and they're all
Mm.
connected. So that I'm on chapter one after I read all the prologue of the brain and how that brain works. And a lot of it's a refresher for me, but it's also such a good reminder of we tend to go to pharmaceuticals to help our mindset, to help our mental fitness. And all we're doing is shadowing over a symptom and then creating more symptoms on the back end because we want that quick fix. I do believe that some people do need medication for things. And that's after though we've looked at how's your nutrition, how's your exercise, how are you taking care of yourself, are you doing a good job? Yes, okay, and we still need help and support, then get the help and support. But a lot of times people aren't looking there right away, they're just jumping there without taking that time to connect your brain to your heart, to your gut, to your whole body, to that weird little kink in that shoulder to correct that posture. All of that, we're not taking time to notice those things, and slowing down will help with all of that.
Definitely. Yeah. Like we've said before, everyone's different and everyone has, different needs. And even if they tried a gratitude practice or, trying positive affirmations, or one thing that I really enjoy that helps me is meditation. Just sitting down and trying to quiet your mind. Of course, those thoughts are going to pop up, but when they do, you set them aside and you just refocus. And, after 10 minutes or so of doing that, I just feel, calmer, and I feel like I have more mental bandwidth to deal with things throughout the day. And I feel a sense of accomplishment. I took time to do something for myself, something that's going to help me. And I think that's really important. And if all that doesn't work, you're right, you might need medication, but I definitely would not recommend to go there first. And too many people are getting prescribed, these SSRIs and all these other drugs when maybe they just need to go out for a walk and get some sunlight and some fresh air. I saw your Instagram the other day. You were out for a walk and you were recording, and so many people are missing out on those simple things that they can do, and I think that's where they should focus on.
The power of
So,
outside. My girlfriend and I were just talking. She's got a fishing podcast. She lives out in Washington.
oh,
And
cool.
we got talking about how if nobody, if you had the means to no longer have to leave your house. So, for instance, you could have all your food delivered, all your groceries delivered, your doctor can come to you, your massage there. Everybody can come to you now in the world we live in. Would you
Hmm.
leave? And a lot of people I don't think would. But there is such a benefit to going outside where we started in life, we were hunter and gatherers.
Hmm.
Everything was outside, and now we're all inside. So it's trying to find that balance. Like that going out for a 30-minute walk is one of the things on my challenge list of like doing that because yeah, sometimes I don't want to go do it. But once I'm out there, it feels good and I know what else it brings me on the back end. So it's having that mindset shift and discipline, I guess is probably the best word with yourself of get over it, go do it because you're going to feel better on the other side because a lot of times we do have the time, but we're like, oh, I'll just do it later. We all fall
Yeah.
into it, no matter how
Oh,
disciplined
yeah.
we are. We do
Hmm.
sometimes, myself included.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so weird, that phenomenon where you're just inside, you feel comfortable, you feel, maybe you don't feel the best. And then you go outside, you make yourself go outside, or you're forced to go outside, and then you just feel better. And it's so weird. I don't really know how to explain it, but I've definitely felt it, and I know it's pretty common. Just getting the sunlight. I mean, I don't think people realize how how important it is to get sunlight, for their circadian rhythm and for the hormone production. You need cholesterol and you need sunlight to make vitamin D. And so many people are deficient in vitamin D, and it's not the same when you take a pill, take a supplement. Even just the fresh air and hearing the birds and seeing the trees, and it's a whole experience that comes as a package, and it's critical, I think, for overall health.
Absolutely.
So, Alfredo, are you back with us? I think we lost you for a minute there, but I see you're back.
Uh, no, I'm back. I was listening. What happens is there is this a fire started at this plaza where I'm at. I'm
Oh
outside
no.
on the other side, but I start smelling smoke. And because I'm in the outside area, like a little patio that this coffee shop has, so I can see from a distance. But I started smelling, and then I put mute and I asked one of the people sitting next to me, and they say, "Yeah, it's a fire just started in the plaza across."
Oh man.
But I think it's all right because there is wind and I'm fine. And
If you need to
just to
go, just go.
no, I'm fine. I'm fine. No problem.
Okay.
And
All
what
right,
you
good.
were mentioning, and Morgan, about the mindset, I believe that in my case, and what I've learned is that the non-negotiables that you can set for yourself currently, not in the past, but currently, it will enhance a lot your self-esteem because you're gonna be able to set boundaries for yourself and also for the people that you interact with. That way it will give you more type of not a privacy but more kind of like a security personally to say I'm not going to do this or I'm going to do this, and when I don't feel good I'm going to be resourcing to some of the tools that will help me. I call it rituals. I suggest the rituals to do it in the morning before you get up and then before you go to sleep, which is some meditation, some relaxation to kind of put your mind in tune, a little stretching so your body releases lactic acid after you work out or stress, and then you can sleep better and your mind will be a lot more clear. And instead of just keep scrolling or listening to music or watching a TV or talking to someone, in that way your mind start more clear, which I mentioned on my program, Connecting Mind and Body. And people say, Alfredo, but you're missing the spirit. And I say, well, if your mind is not clear, you cannot even comprehend that there is a spirit living inside of you. So when you're able to have a little more tuning, especially when you wake up, if you wake up and you rush like a puppy, they just say, let's go for a walk. Sometimes they don't even open their eyes and they just start running at the door, right? And sometimes happens with the humans. But if you take like about 30 seconds and sit in the bed and kind of let the blood flow into your body, you start having better understanding that there is a new day that you can start your day not rushing.
Yeah.
And something
Yeah.
that I learned from Mel Robbins is that theory, they talk about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which it helps you to break the pattern when you don't want to do something, when you're scared about do something, when you're doubting about something. And that's something that I've been practicing, especially because for many years I've been taking a shower with cold water. And sometimes even December or November, I'm not in Alaska, but sometimes it gets cold. And
Oh
people say, you're
yeah.
crazy. And I said, no, because it will enhance my body. It will get my mind clear and it feels good. Sometimes I don't want it, but I just say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I get in the shower and I shower and I feel awesome. And when I have situations going on, like frustration or anger, or I kind of do that, and it helps me to have a little more clear mind because I do things practical, not just theoretically.
Yeah, that cold immersion therapy can be really helpful for so many different things. Morgan, do you do any cold plunges or cold showers or anything like that?
On a regular basis, no. We have a place in Detroit. It's called the Spitz. So it's a
Hmm.
bathhouse. And they've got a cold plunge that is actually regulated by the ground temperature. So in the summer, it's cold, but it's not as cold as if you go in December in Michigan. It's a
Oh
little bit
boy,
colder in
a
December.
little bit.
So I've done that, which is cool because they've got a dry sauna and a wet sauna. So you kind of get the exposure to both the hot and the cold. Um,
Hmm.
on a regular basis, I rituals that I do in the winter more specifically is a bath. I love a bath at the end of the day, especially because I don't like being cold. I love Michigan, but I don't like being cold. So a
Hmm.
bath is a really good way for me to wind down, especially on the days when I'm in front of the computer and I don't get out of the house because I work from home. All my
Hmm.
clients are virtual, and if I don't have an errand to run, what is why do I need to leave? Whether it's for a walk or like actually going and seeing other people. So those baths are really good for me just to kind of calm down, to let my mind stop racing, things like that. The other thing that I've done recently, because I do sleep with my phone next to my bedside, I know it's not the best thing to do, but we are a family that has screens in our, like, we just have screens. But on my phone, I've turned it into when I click my three dots, it goes to a red screen. So it's a little less, it's a red light. Um, there was a guy on Instagram that I saw that walked me through the tutorial of how to do it. I'll have to find it and I can send it to you, but I love
I've
it.
done the same thing.
Yes. And I've noticed that when I read at night and I change it to that red screen, it's just more calming. So I've gotten in the habit of doing that, that when I go into the bedroom and if I'm going to be on my phone, it's got to be that red light. It can't be that really intense. So really those are the two evening rituals. My morning ritual would probably be I like to get up, I like to have a cup of coffee. I am not a rush around morning. I can be if
Hmm.
I need to be. But if I'm the type of person that you've probably seen an Instagram or a Facebook reel where they're like, okay, so party's at 11, which means we have to leave at 11, which means I need to be up at 10, which means I need to go, like literally working their life backwards. I am that person. I get up at 5:30 every morning and I don't see or start work probably until like 7 because I like the slow roll of a morning of I'm gonna have some coffee, I'm gonna maybe walk on my walking pad, I'm gonna have time to myself before I jump into the fast-paced day to day. Because I know as soon as I'm in there and I'm getting creative, I lose that little bit of time for myself. So time for myself in the morning, even on weekends, is like a must in my world.
That's very important. And yeah, I mean, it's counterintuitive. Taking a hot bath at night can help you fall asleep because your core temperature needs to cool down for you to be able to fall asleep. And by taking a warm bath, your internal temperature cools down to compensate, and that can help you fall asleep better and just relax. And yeah, I love it. So before we wrap up, Morgan, where can people connect with you? I think you're
So I actually just launched my own podcast probably about a month ago. So it's Empower Her Wellness, Empower Her, all one
fantastic.
word, with Morgan Ekovich. It's all about all things women's health, physical, mental, emotional. We've got sleep experts on. We just had a hormone expert on, pelvic floor. So I've got one guest per month. The other two are solo episodes. So they can find me on Empower Her Wellness on Spotify, podcast, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Um, and then the other really great spot is honestly on Facebook, Get Fit With Me LLC. I am active on there as well as my Instagram. Everything's kind of connected. So if you find me
Yeah,
on the social media platform, you'll find me everywhere. I'm really good about answering Facebook messages as well as emails, but my email is very long and tedious. If you are listening and you're thinking about starting a business, think about short and to the point and not this long-winded email. So if you are somebody who is thinking, just a tip for thought, because I did not do that. I wanted my business name. So just find me, Get Fit With Me LLC on Facebook or Morgan Ekovich, and add me as a friend, send me a message. Would love to connect, have you check out the podcast, jump in my free Facebook group, all those things.
fantastic. You heard it, everyone. Look for Morgan online, connect with her, and she can really help you. So thank you, Alfredo, for joining us today. And Morgan, it was a pleasure speaking with you both. And
Yeah,
yeah,
this was
You're
awesome.
welcome.
Thank you.
we'll
Thank
see you
you.
all soon. Bye.